Hello, I want to take up a study on the Gospel of Mark. Mark was a contemporary, or shall I say, he was a close associate of the apostles. He was a follower, perhaps, of Peter, because Peter told Mark of the accounts that took place. And after the death of Paul and Peter, Mark delivered in writings things that were preached by Peter. So though it says the Gospel of Mark, it could have said the Gospel according to Peter. Uh, these things are said to have taken place along AD 225. It's alleged that Mark wrote his gospel as Peter explained it to him. And Irenaeus confirmed this tradition by saying that after the death of Peter and Paul, Mark delivered to us in writing things preached by Peter. I want to talk this evening, want to read scripture in Mark the 5th chapter through Mark the 5th chapter verse 1, to verse 20, where it talks about the topic of where the man was in the cemetery and he was possessed with demons. And Jesus cast the spirits out of the man. Before this scene took place in the 4th chapter of Mark, we see at the lateral parts of that chapter where Jesus was in the hinder parts of the ship and he was asleep, according to Mark 4:38. In the hinder part of the ship, he was asleep on a pillow. And the disciples awakened him because a storm rose. And Jesus rebuked the winds and rebuked the storms, and they all wondered, said, what manner of man is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? Jesus rebuked them by saying that they had no faith. But then after that took place, we see that they had made it over to the other side where they were going, and the first verse says that they came over unto the other side of the sea. And this sea is apparently talking about the Sea of Galilee. They came over to the other side of the sea and to the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwellings among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with feathers and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the feathers broken in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. We would call a person like that today, or in the psychological world and in the secular world, you'd be known as being crazy. He saw Jesus afar off, and he ran and worshiped him, and cried with a loud voice and said, what have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. And he said unto him, come, this is Jesus speaking. Jesus said unto him, come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. In verse 9, and he asked him, what is thy name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Them mean that this man was possessed with many demonic spirits. In verse 11 saying, there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, send us into the herd of swine, that we may enter into them. And verse 13 says that, for with Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits came out, and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and there were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. And verse 14 reads, and they that fed the swine fled, and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what was it that was done. And they come to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Because this man was known in the community to have unclean spirits, had something wrong with him. He didn't have normal, what would be considered as normal behavior, sitting and crying and in the cemetery. There's nobody out there except but maybe the grave keepers, but he was sitting in the cemetery crying and cutting himself. Now, who would in their right mind would abuse their own body, would abuse themselves? Verse 16 says, and they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And he began to pray him to depart out of the coast. And when he had come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. I'm quite sure he had been bound, and God had set him free. And of course he would want to be right along with the one that had emancipated him or freed him from such bondage. And verse 19 said, howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but said unto him, go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord had done for thee, and had compassion on thee. This reminds me of another story we'll find in the book of John, the 4th chapter. Of course, it wasn't exactly alike in terms of character, but we will find that this woman at the well, who was there to draw water, met the Lord at the well, and he told her, he said, if you had asked of me, I would have given you living water. And she wanted to know, how could you give me living water? And I don't see where you even have a pail or a bucket to even draw water with. But when the story goes on, we see that Jesus told her her predicament and her life journey and experience. Told her that she he asked her first, where your husband? And he already knew that she was no longer married. And she says, I don't have a husband. He said, truth, said, you've had 5. And the one that the man that you with now is not yours. And then, when Jesus kept ministering unto this woman, it reminds me in similarities, because he told this man that he had freed from demonic possession to go and to tell what good things the Lord had done to him, for him. This woman, she left, and she went and told all she could. She told every man. She told him, come and see a man. Come see a man that have told me all I've ever done. I tell you, my friend, that it doesn't matter what state we might be in life, that if we turn everything over to Christ, He's there, and He's there, a very present help in the time of need. Matthew 11 and verses 28 to 30 talks about Him being there. Said, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for my yoke is easy and my burdens is light. Jeremiah 33 and 3 says, call unto me, and I will answer thee and show thee great and mighty things, and which thou know not. Howbeit, in verse 19 of Mark 5, it says that howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but said unto him, go home to thy friends. He wanted him to go to his friends and to publish and to tell how the Lord had set him free. Tell who had delivered him. Tell about his new birth, his born again, his new condition. Tell how he's now a new man, a changed man. Oh, what pleasure it is to have a testimony that yes, I once was blind, but now I see. I once was lost, as the song goes, but amazing grace, now I'm found. What great testimony it is to tell what the Lord has done for you. And we ought to have that testimony. We ought to be willing to share with others what Christ has done for us. David said in Psalms 34, said, taste and see that the Lord is good. In this last verse I want to read, Mark 5 and verse 20, it said, and he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men did marvel. My friend, all of us who know Christ ought to have that same testimony. We have it, but are we sharing it? Are we sharing it on the job when opportunities come? I know we have to work and we're not there to hold church, but we have a lunch break. We got friends and they tell their jokes and you know how they tell things that's not pleasant for a child of God to be listening to. Well, if that's offensive? So, I mean, you ought to be willing to open up your mouth and tell them about the goodness of Jesus Christ. God bless you, my friend. I ask you to be in prayer for me, and I'll pray for you. Be blessed.